Xyla here, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my new shop. Admittedly, today's video was supposed to be like, here's my new shop and all the things I built to move into it, except that, clearly I'm not as moved in as I thought I would be. So instead, I'm gonna tell you the 10 things that I wish I knew when I first started making stuff and building stuff. This video has been sitting on a notes app on my phone for a long time and I've just been adding to it, so I'm excited to finally share. Number one is very silly, but it was a realization I had recently and I just wanted to share it. And it's basically that the longer you make stuff, the easier it gets. One, because you're building skill, but two, because you accumulate shit. Eventually you'll have every scrap in every material and every size, and it just lowers the mental energy it takes to go hack something together really quickly, indescribably. It's so nice, and it's something that students and young people will really struggle with until you have your own space where you can start accumulating things. And so I didn't have that luxury until very recently, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Okay, number two feels a little bit like 1.5, but I'm calling it number two, and it's that you can get other people's scraps on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace. The first couple of weeks that I was in LA, I just drove around the city for hours picking up tons and tons of scraps, offcuts, a laser cutter company that was going out of business and got rid of all of their flat stock. I just took all of it and it was free. Or architectural salvage. I was just collecting other people's garbage and it has saved me so much money. Every single laser cut template you've seen on this channel, or all of the wood for the PCB table or the map table, all of that was free salvaged wood. Oh, and this goes for tools as well. Up until I started working with Rockler, I bought all of my tools used for probably more than 50% off on Craigslist or Marketplace. And it's actually kind of nice because a lot of times someone's built a bunch of jigs for it, or the table, the workbench that it sits on, or they'll throw in a bunch of bits for free. So you can get way better deals just buying your tools used. And someone else has worked out the quirks with them. Or created more quirks. It's a gamble. Number three is maybe the most important one in this list, and it is that the most important skill in making stuff is not any kind of technical skill like cutting on a bandsaw really well or using hand tools. I think it is the complete and utter trust in yourself to figure it out no matter what. I've never made the same thing twice on this channel. Every single video you've seen of me is just me winging it and figuring it out as I go along. And I feel like no great maker knows exactly how a project is gonna go when they start it. That's the fun of making stuff. But the thing that I have put a lot of effort into developing is a confidence and a trust in myself that I can problem solve my way through whatever comes up. Number four is kind of silly, but it's very real, and it is that I wish the first expensive tool I had truly invested in was a sander. A sander is the most important tool in your workshop. It's the thing you spend the most time doing, and it is the one tool that will be touching every single project, no matter what. And having a properly balanced, ergonomic sander that also vacuums the dust out as it's being sanded will help your lungs, it'll help your wrist, it'll help your elbows. It'll just be really safety beneficial to your body. The dust got to the point where we were color grading it out of the boat build just because there was so much dust. When I finally bought my nice sander, I told my neighbor Steve, who was my woodworking mentor, about it, and I was like, I finally bought the Festool sander, and he was like, what took you so long? That should have been the first tool you bought. And he was right, and I wish I'd listened. Number five, I think is really empowering once you truly internalize it, is that everything is fixable. I have never encountered a mistake that could truly took down a project. Everything, even if it involves an extra day of gluing or sanding or patching, cutting a little splinter to fix a crack or a little circle to change a router slip or something, everything is fixable. And in the end, people looking at your project aren't gonna notice. There is always, always a fix. Before we go to the next one, a quick word from our sponsor, and a huge thank you to all of the sponsors that help keep this channel's lights on. Today's video is sponsored by BetterHelp, the world's largest therapy service that is completely online. The holiday season can be an incredibly hard time of year for a lot of people, and I would encourage you all to take care of yourself, no matter what that means to you. This holiday season, I've not only got to move my entire home, but also my entire workshop and livelihood, and the future feels kind of uncertain. A big part of how I take care of my own mental health is by seeing a therapist that I trust. And over the holidays and in long breaks between appointments, I feel better about punting things I need to work out, knowing that I have an appointment coming up and I can take notes on my phone in the meantime. If you are still looking for a therapist, BetterHelp is an online resource offering access to over 30,000 licensed therapists. You get matched with a therapist in most cases within 48 hours or less, which is great if anyone is dealing with anything immediately. You can communicate with your therapist in a way that suits you best: text, phone calls, or video chats. And if you find that your first match isn't quite the right fit, there's no extra charge or shame in switching therapists. It's all about what works for you. I've always believed in the power of speaking with someone. It's my primary way of processing my emotions and dealing with life's changes. BetterHelp offers a convenient, accessible way to make that happen. And remember, there's no shame in seeking help. It's a brave step towards taking care of your mental health. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by life's demands, like I am with my big move, or just need someone to talk to, know that BetterHelp is a tool that can be in your tool belt. Use my link betterhelp.com/Xyla to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/Xyla. A huge thank you to BetterHelp for supporting this channel and sponsoring today's video. Number 6 is really fun, and I actually got this one from Instagram when I asked you guys like what the things you wish you knew were. And it was like, I wish I had thought of it. I think the exact wording was know which friends have which tools. But I will make that a little bit more philosophical and say, build a community of friends and mentors that have like a huge diversity of tools, and don't be afraid to ask to use them. Back like for the first couple years of this channel, when I was in that one car garage in the alley, I didn't have space or money for a lot of tools. And so I just like went to friends and I found people who had what I needed. And the way that this works is like, you have to make sure it's not just a one-way street. You're not a parasite, but you can find other ways of giving back to that person or to the greater community. Like, you could buy dinner, you can bring snacks, you can bake something, you can be like a listening ear for whatever's going on in their life. There's so many ways of making sure a relationship is two-way. Now that I have tools and I have a lot of space, I love it when my friends come over and use my stuff. Like, it's a good feeling because it's part of like giving back to this community. Number 7 is to invest in good, comfortable PPE, like that you are actually going to wear. So for me, that's like safety glasses that I actually feel kind of cute in, or hearing protection that has Bluetooth. So I'm always wearing it in the shop, even when I'm not using loud tools, because I just want to be listening to my music or my podcast or whatever I'm listening to. And then I also have dust masks for every job, but I do this a lot. But like this one is super lightweight, and it doesn't protect me from fumes, but it does protect me from wood dust, but it doesn't like hurt my neck as much as like the big respirator with bigger cartridges. So spend money on good PPE because it's better than spending money on hospital bills later. I will throw my favorite products as like just Amazon affiliate links down in the description below, but my goal is not to tell you something, it's just to point you in the right direction. It took me a long time to find the products that I like, and so I'll pop them below. Asterisk, if you are like a woman or a child or not sized like the 6-foot man that all safety gear is sized to, it is really hard to find things that fit you well. And it is also kind of your responsibility to seek out those things, unfortunately, because your safety only lies in your hands. And I learned this the really hard way. I am gonna call them out. I wore an RZ mask for the canoe build, and they never passed NIOSH approval, but like a ton of YouTubers that I really liked were doing ads with them, so I thought that it would be fine. And I am permanently sensitized to cedar dust now. If I'm exposed to cedar at all, I get really sick. And for weeks after the canoe, I had to sleep sitting up because I was coughing up blood. Like, it was terrible. And so now I will only ever I take like dust masks really seriously, and I only ever wear them when there's a silicone seal that I can truly feel is sealed. Number 8 is, I've been really struggling to word it, but I think this idea is really important. Safety, the skill, is a huge amount of knowledge, and there's nobody that has all of it. There are entire organizations like OSHA dedicated to figuring out how to make the workplace safer, and it is our job as makers to do the best that we can with the knowledge and the resources that we have, and always be able to accept feedback and change the way we're doing things if we find out that we could be doing better. Safety is a skill that you should be building in parallel with your making skills. Like, when you first start, you're not gonna know as much, but you should be putting as much effort into learning about the safety side of things as you are about creating that finished product. Does that make sense? Number 9 is short but sweet, and it is that tools are meant to be used. So use them. Don't coddle your tools because you don't wanna put wear on the blades, or you don't wanna, like, we make things for the joy of making them. So use those tools, do it. And if you really don't want to beat up your tools, something I do is I have a Harbor Freight set of everything. So I have like my nice chisels and my Harbor Freight chisels. And if I need to do something violent, I'll use the Harbor Freight chisels. Number 10 is, I think, the most impactful lesson that I have learned, so I saved the best for last. I'm gonna tell it via a story. So when I was a freshman in college, I joined the NASA robotics team. I was building this like cool lunar robot for a competition at Kennedy. And I somehow, as a freshman, got put in charge of designing and constructing the entire eBay and the electromechanical like integration. And so I designed my thing, I fabricated all the parts, and then I was putting it together, and nothing fit together. And it was like several weeks before competition. And so I was alone in this robotics lab at 2:30 in the morning, and I just started having a meltdown. I'm just like lying on the floor of this lab crying, like wondering how the heck I'm gonna get myself out of this situation. And this graduate student mentor friend of mine walked in to grab something, and I'm so sure that he went in at like 2:30 in the morning in order to just make sure that no one was there and he could do his whatever he was doing in peace. And instead he walks in and he finds this crying freshman. And so he's like, Xyla, what's wrong? What happened? And I was like, none of my pieces fit together. The competition's in a couple weeks. Like, I've screwed this up. I'm a terrible engineer. Maybe I'm just not cut out for this. Like, what? How come no one else has this problem? And he looked at me and he said, you played an instrument growing up, didn't you? And I said, yeah, I'm Chinese. I played the violin. And he said, how many hours a day did you practice your instrument? And I was like, I don't know, like an hour or two for 12 years. And he said, how many hours a day have you practiced engineering in your life? And I was like, practiced engineering? None. I just started. I'm a freshman. And he was like, there you go. Engineering and building stuff and making things is just like playing an instrument. You need practice. And you can't compare yourself to these seniors and these graduate students on the team who have years now of practice that you don't have. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that engineering, building stuff, making things, art, it's a skill. And just like any other skill, it requires practice. So don't compare yourself to people who have thousands more hours practicing something than you have. It's just not fair. And if you want to get to that point and that skill level, you also can't just be thinking about it. You have to do it. You have to get your hands dirty and practice every day, 40 hours. Ling Ling would be proud. But for real, just do it. Just get out there and make stuff. And if your first couple of times aren't that great, keep going. You'll get there. And when you're practicing, practice on scraps. Be the trash panda of your dreams. Go collect other people's scraps or your own scraps and try stuff. Oh, and if you like this t-shirt, shop.xylafoxlin.com. Be the scrap panda of your dreams. Aight, see ya. 8 is sort of related. 8 is sort of related. 8 is, how do you do? 8 is sort of related.